Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories. Hosted by Pastor Lester Lewis, co-host Charlize Wilkerson and Leroy Carey. Produced by David Humphreys. Where there is addiction, there is a chance for recovery. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.
Today on Ask the Messengers TV show, you will hear real people sharing real stories about addiction, recovery, and what they do to stay clean. The Ask the Messengers TV show is about real people. It's about real stories. It's about saving lives, one episode at a time. And we hope that the testimonies from these real people will help you the same way it has helped them. The Ask the Messengers TV show begins now.
What up, though, Detroit? This your street reporter, LaShawn Battle, coming to you straight out of Atlanta. Where the players play. They not playing, you hear me? Addiction is real, and it's real all over the world. So today we'll be coming to you with real people, with real stories. I ask that you pay attention.
My name is Linda, and I'm a woman of long-term recovery. And I've been clean for 26 years, and my clean date is May the 13th, 1993. My drug of choice was marijuana, coke, I drank, cigarettes, and heroin. When I first picked up drugs, I was like about 10 or 11.
And how were you able to get a hold to it at such a young age?
Well, when I was in high school, I used to sell joints, and I had a boyfriend, and I was just growing up. I was 12, and he was 22, so he sold dope. He had the marijuana, and I was living a fast life, so I met up with him, and then I was able to keep my marijuana and my money in my pocket and hustle some joints in school.
I used cocaine and heroin for years. My clean date is January 24th, 1999.
How old were you when you first picked up?
14 years of age.
At such a young age, how did you get a hold to it so early?
Well, a lot of time we're the product of our environment. So I grew up in what they call the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago, Illinois, and that was the norm in that community. A lot of time in those kind of communities, good is bad and bad is good. So I gravitated towards that. I also had a brother who was a intravenous drug user.
My clean date is May 5th, 2016, and my drug of choice was crack, coke, weed, alcohol, anything that got my mind off of anything I didn't want to focus on. I come from a two-parent home. I come from a home where we sat down at the dinner table. I was very sheltered. Didn't go too many places without my mom or my dad. Sports, played basketball and softball. Life growing up, I knew nothing about what I know now. I didn't see it.
So how did you get introduced to the fast lane?
The slow lane got bored. Growing up, I had my daughter at 16. My first time having sex, I got pregnant with her. When I had sex again, she was almost 3. And so I started getting to that age where I started hearing that at 18 I was grown and no one could tell me what to do. So I left home, and it was pretty much uphill, then downhill from there. My first drug was weed, and did not like it. I was stuck, and I've always been a person with a lot of energy, so it just wasn't my thing. And from there, it went to X pills, and that was more my speed. It hyped me up. It kept me going. I wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going. And from there, it went to coke, from coke to acid.
And how long did you use?
About 13 years.
So when did you get to the point Where you hit bottom, where you said, look, enough is enough, I'm done?
Um, the last time was when my daughter, at the age of 15, she called me. Well, she didn't call me. I got message from in jail to call home, and she told me she was pregnant. And I was sitting in jail, ready to get out so I could get high, until I got that news. And I went back to my cell because I was able. My parents are very well known when it comes to the jail system and all of that from where I'm from. And so I was able to make a special phone call. And so when I went back to my cell, I just cried. I just cried. And I remember saying, I don't want my grandbaby to see me the way his or her mom would have had to see me. And not saying that she seen me that way, because she didn't. I pretty much left her with my parents. And when I would clean myself up for 2 days, 2 or 3 days at a time, before I knew I was going to visit her. And that went on for years. So I just knew that I wanted to be a grandmother, a better grandmother than a better mother than I was.
My drug of choice was crack cocaine. I have now been clean since July 8th, 2014. I started actively using on a regular basis April of 1996. My children, I had 4 children, and it affected them greatly. I started neglecting them and doing the things that a mother should have been doing. And my grandmother, she had to step in and start taking care of them. I was about 10 years old when I first picked up a drug. It was marijuana. My mom and my stepdad, they smoked weed a lot, and they had a little dish that they would hold rolled joints in. And when they would leave home, I'd sneak in there and I'd get one. And my first taste of cocaine, I was with a cousin. I was about 15 years old, and she sold drugs, and she used to smoke marijuana laced with crack cocaine. So that was my first taste of crack.
My clean date is December the 5th, 2004. I used for approximately 40 years on a regular basis. I used cocaine, crack, smoked a little weed, but my drug of choice was cocaine and crack. Well, everybody was smoking weed at the time, and I was just kind of like hanging out. Got drafted, went to Vietnam, come back, had some family issues. I did not know how to deal with problems at that time, and so I drank and smoked weed and got high, and it progressively got worse.
So when I heard you say you was drafted in Vietnam. How was it over there? Did you use over there at all?
Oh yeah, but smoked weed and opium. Did a little drinking.
What was that like?
Fantastic, especially when you're scared. Takes all the edge off when you're high at that time. And when I came back, I found out that I had some marital problems. You know, my wife had allowed my first cousin to move in. My kids was calling him daddy. I did not know how to deal with the problem, so I drank more. I got higher, and I stayed high off and on a regular basis. I used.
My clean date is April 28th, 2019. My drug of choice it was crack and fantasizing.
Stay tuned for more of real people sharing real stories, coming to you from Atlanta.
I remember standing on the corner of my neighborhood, and I would sit there. I would stand there in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would watch people going to church and going to work, and I used to pray to God, God, I want to go to work. And I would say, I want to go to church like these people are going on Sundays, you know. And I would pray to God, God, please don't let me die out here on dope. I was sitting in a house one day, and I was with someone that was supposed to be, or who I thought was a friend of our family's, and he was sitting when we got there to his house, you know, I thought I was, you know, I had hit a lick and I was on, and I didn't have to, do no favors. I didn't have to turn no tricks to get high this night. But when I got there, he wanted me to have sex with him, and his wife was upstairs. And I'm like, no, no. And I'm telling him I'm gonna call my brother. I'm worried because I'm in the basement of this man's house. And I was sitting there and I was about to smoke. I was about to hit my dope, and something knocked it out of my hands onto the ground. And I just, threw my hands up and I fell to my knees. And the Spirit told me, if you don't stop, I'm going to let you die out here. If you don't get yourself together, I'm going to let you die out here. And I started praying, and I knew it was real because that was my prayer when I was standing on them corners. God, please don't let me die out here on dope. And that was my bottom. I had lost all my children already. I was homeless, and I was turning tricks. And something else happened. There was a girl, we was living in an abandonment, and we opened it up and got the electric cut on. There was somebody, somebody in the streets always that can do something that's talented. They cut on the electric, they cut on the gas for us. We got keys made. And one of the girls that I helped do her apartment, she went out to turn a trick, and she never came back. She was murdered out there on the streets. And so I was afraid to go up to cars. Every time I would look at somebody or go up to a window, I would like, is this the man that's gonna kill me? Is this the killer? And I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So that was basically how I got my money and how I got my dope. So I'm like, what else am I gonna do? And that was my bottom.
It seemed just after a bit, it's like anything else. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was hanging out with people I normally wouldn't hang with. I was spending a whole lot of money buying crack, buying cocaine. I was dealing with people I normally wouldn't, and I just got tired. And December the 4th, I just had enough. And I was at my job, sitting in the car, and I lost it. I went in the plant and told them that I had a drug problem, I needed help. I sit there and I lost it. I got very emotional. I asked God, Father God, I need help. I want to stop using drugs, and I can't. That day, I talked to the EAP representative, which is Employee Assistance Program, they're General Motors in Doraville, Georgia. And about 3 hours later, I was at a rehab facility, Peachford Behavioral Hospital. They kept me there for 64 days, and after that, I went in treatment.
I used on and off for about 26 years. My worst day of using was a lot of days. I had a lot of worst days. I put myself in positions where I was almost murdered several times. But one of the worst I can think of is when my grandmother died. I didn't know how to express the pain that I was feeling. The urge to get high just took over. So that's one of my worst memories.
Let's talk about these images of you.
Well, these images are 3 different stages of me going in and out of prison. I've been to prison 3 times. On the last prison sentence, that was my bottom. That was when I found that I needed to find another way to live. That if I didn't change, that the cycle wouldn't end. I have to give God the glory for it because He got me clean right on time. I lost my oldest daughter. She was murdered by the APD, and she has 2 sons, ages 6 and 7 now. But at the time, they were 1, and the other one was 2. Well, he turned 2 the day after, so it was 2 and 3. And God cleaned me up in time enough to step in and be the mother that they didn't have.
How did your using affect your relationship with your family?
With my dad, he just got quiet with me. He would still give me when I asked, even though he knew. And the relationship with my mom, even though I grew up in that home where we got everything we wanted, we had everything we needed, I've always looked for a certain type of love from my mom. Because my dad that raised me is not my biological father. And I'm my mom's first child. And my sister and my brother comes from my dad. Like, we have the same mom, but not the same dad. And so I've always thought that I seen a different relationship. And so it just made it worse. I mean, I'm 3 years in and I still look for certain things from her. I'm just now getting to a place where I learned to accept her love the way she give it to me. And it don't look like I want it to look.
When I reach bottom, sometimes it's a trap door. So I fall farther. And so, when I thought it was in, it wasn't in. I can just say that I knew my bottom was when I really.
When you thought it was the end,
It was not.
Give me an example of that.
Saying that, okay, I'm going to stop using. I want to keep my wife and my family intact. What I had to realize was that the only way that I could succeed in any recovery process was for me to do it for me, because nothing else was promised. I had to do it for myself. I always wanted to do it for my job or for my wife or for my sons or for my mother. But at the end, it had to boil down to what I needed to do for me. And I really wanted it. And the other thing was, like, I always try to think my way into recovery. But getting clean is not mental where I can think my way into recovery. It's got to be a heartfelt decision. And motivated by pain, I was ready to stop.
My using affect my relationship with my siblings. Like, I stole from them, you know, and I never stayed home. I was a runner, so I always ran. My mother didn't really even know where I was, but my family loved me. They were there for me. They couldn't trust me now. They had to hide their stuff. My recovery is good. It's okay. And I just do what I got to do. I'm just good to be clean today. I'm glad I'm not using, I'm not out in the streets.
Drugs, alcohol, whatever the poison is not the answer. So it's just trying to reach out and find out. I just believe that if anybody, if drugs and alcohol got me where I'm got, what got me to the drugs and alcohol? If you know what I mean, a lot of times it's dysfunction in the family or traumatic experiences, any of that. So the bottom line is just don't use. It's not the answer.
I'm starting to realize that I have a voice that I've never thought that I had or that I never thought that I could use. Recovery is possible for everybody. You just have to tap into what you want your recovery to look like and just do it.
Today, I'm proud to say that God has afforded me to be dependable and trustworthy. I'm able to be employable now. This has given me an opportunity to do things that I've never done before, and for me to be dependable. Someone can trust me now. I've had jobs with check cashing facilities. I've worked in several different positions where trust was a must. So I'm trustworthy today.
Well, I've got 25 grandkids and 9 great grandkids, and what I've told my grandkids is this: no matter what, don't use no drugs. Do not hang with people that use drugs, and be very aware of the people you associate yourself with, because the devil is out there and he's running rapid, and you must be aware of the traps that set out there for you. And drugs will get you quick, and that's the story that I tell everybody. Just don't use no matter what, and don't hang with people that do, because at the end, jail's institution of death is just that simple. And the story never changes. It's always the same.
Relapse is a part of my story. Going back out there is a part of my story. The benefits I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she is my world, and I parent her different than I'm able to parent her. I was able to parent her from birth to now, and I'm all she knows. You know, she has a father that's in her life, but she doesn't know me being on crack. Because when I used, again, I used alcohol, I used marijuana, something that out there is socially acceptable. But because I followed, you know, a program, because I had the support I had and the lessons that I learned, alcohol and weed is also a mind and mood altering chemical. They're also a drug, but they're socially acceptable, so I couldn't see that at first. I stayed out there a while. I still accomplished some things. I didn't have the financial and the, you know, the degradation that I went through from smoking crack. So it caused me to stay out there a while. While I was out there, while I was doing that, I lost my oldest son. He was murdered. I was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree during that time. I married a man who traumatized me, lied to me, early on, lied to me, cheated on me, used me. I bought a home. But because I had this program and this relationship and this support from these people, I knew what I was doing was wrong. Other people didn't know because they hadn't gone through what I had gone through. But my soul was empty. I was alone. And I knew that I could do better. And I knew if I recommitted myself and was clean from all drugs, that I would be happy. I could learn to be happy. I could learn to be free and live again and leave my home. You know, and I didn't want my children to see me like that. I have an older daughter who's an adult, and we are each other's world. My children are really close to me. They look up to me now. Even my son that was adopted out came back in my life.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Ask the Messengers TV show. Keep finding your way to recovery. Keep doing what you can do to stay there. And if you need some help, help is there for you. All you got to do is ask. So until next time, thank you for watching.
Won't you help us to do exactly what our motto is, and that is to help save lives? Won't you send a generous donation to the information there on the screen? We would love to have you as part of our partnership to help save lives. You may not be able to go out in the street, you may not be able to come here to the show, but you can send your donation that helps us save lives.
I want you right now, look in this camera, I want you to talk to the new you.
I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad to be here just right now. I'm happy I'm able and have the chance to do this, to tell you that life can be so much better. I just feel really grateful. I feel loved. I love you, girl. And you got this. You can do this. We all can do this, one day at a time.